Hi, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Stanley Director Show. My guest, Antonio Ortiz, is a television writer, poet, playwright, and a bright light among his peers. Tony has been a member of the Writers Guild of America West for over 20 years. I won't hold it against you, Tony. He is also a liaison for the Writers Guild Task Force for Disabled Writers. Among his lists of credits is the cartoon show Dennis the Menace. Tony's poems have appeared in New Mexico Magazine, and he recently had a play produced at the Inner City Cultural Center in Los Angeles. Antonio, can you tell our vast television audience how you became a professional writer?
It's really weird. My first byline, I was 9 years old at the Boys Club, and I just got thrilled by that. And then I had about a 30-year hiatus where all I did was turn papers with F's on it, and then I went to college. And then I got in a open door program with the Writers Guild for minority writers, and I had some very good teachers there. I had Philip Rock, not Philip Roth. I had the ex-president of the Guild, which was Nate Monester, and then I also had Marianne Mosner. And I was fortunate enough to win a couple awards with my scripts with the Writers Guild. And then George Clayton Johnson, who's been on your show, had a class at UCLA Extension School. And we went there, my wife and I, Carmela, and we met a lot of nice people there. And then George took one of my scripts, the one that I had won award with the Writers Guild. And then we went to Barbara Schultz, who had the program called Visions, which was a thing to develop new writers for PBS.
Oh, PBS.
And, yep. And so I was fortunate enough to pitch a story. They bought it. They developed it. They paid for my dues and for the first year and the initiation dues for the Guild. And that was 20 years ago. And I've been a member of the Guild ever since. So that's how I became a personal writer.
Well, let me ask.
Writer.
Well, I got to ask you this. Being you're a handicapped writer, right?
Well, no, I don't know anything about horses, and I never bet on the Kentucky Derby. Is that what you mean by handicapped writer?
Hey, you straightened me out real fast, Tony.
I'm disabled. I'm more inconvenienced than anything else. Disabled is the current term, not handicapped. But remember this: in life, when you have a good horse like Secretariat, the better the horse, the more the handicap.
Okay. Okay.
How's that for ego?
That isn't ego. That's Tony talking. What can I tell you? Look, I know you a long time. Tell me about your family. How all of this came about. I know you know 9 years old and that, but I mean, was that your burning ambition when you were a kid to be a writer?
No, my burning ambition was to work in the tamale factory, and then later was to become a truck driver like my father. But we come from a family that loves to tell jokes and stories. My grandmother, who didn't speak much English, in fact, the story that I wrote, Nana, was about her, and she died a little bit after the story was done. She's now been gone 20 years, but she's still a big influence in my life. And she was a storyteller. She used to love to tell stories, and from there I got this desire of having an audience and telling stories. If I could memorize lines, I probably would have rather become an actor, but that was it. So instead I became a writer, just to keep that, to write things down. And after I went blind, I used my writing as a visual entree to my life, and I share my visual things with people by writing. When you say taxi cab yellow, your taxi cab yellow could be different than my taxi cab yellow. So I try to make these analogies of things that are gone 30 years ago. I remember one of the first teachers I ever had, when I went blind and they were teaching me Braille, she said, "Do you realize when I could see, the last time I could see, the Model T was in vogue?" I go, "Wow, that was a long time ago." Well, now it's been more than 30 years for me, so it's even longer than the Model T. So when I talk about cars, I'm talking about cars with wings on them and, you know, big cars, big gas guzzlers. I think one of the reasons I fell in love and married my wife, because she had like a 1960 Matador, and she's short, and you could barely see her in the top of the car. And my folks went cruising, and they still to this day laugh about it. So my family influenced me in that we always kept this oral story tradition on it, and they listened to my stories, and they still listen to my stories now.
But I mean, from being a truck driver and working at a tamale factory to becoming a writer. I mean, the tamale factory to me is very poetic.
Mm-hmm.
All right, or am I missing my guess about that? I mean, that was your great influence.
Yeah, well, 40 years ago, it's very poetic. I'm sure that when my whole family, we lived across the street from the tamale factory, when they went in there and at 7 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock at night, 6 days a week, it wasn't very romantic to them to clean husk and have tarantulas come out of the different husk and a couple of maggots out of the meat. I'm sure it wasn't very romantic, and maybe a cousin lost a fingertip or two. I never did eat those tamales, by the way.
I don't think I'm going to want to work in a tamale factory.
No, there aren't many left. So,
but
truck driving's still there, Stan.
Hey,
Hey,
that
I'll have my father teach you how. He's retired now, but I'm sure he can teach you. He can teach anybody to drive.
Well, let me ask you this, Tony. What medium do you like the best? Do you like writing cartoons, or do you like writing serious dramas?
I like writing plays. I love plays. Plays is kind of a lazy man's way of writing. You write the dialogue, you set up the situation, and then you depend on the director, not Stanley, of course, and then you depend on other actors to fill out what you have an idea out. And what's nice about that, and what I learned with my play, is I don't like to listen to my stuff over and over, but in the play, my wife Carmela was directing it, and we did it at our house, and every day, 2 times a night, I listened to my play, and every reading was different.
Mm-hmm.
And I just found that fascinating. I'd rather see a bad play than a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
So if I had my druthers, I'd love to do live theater.
But
I don't think there's any dead theater, is there?
well, I don't know about that, but I want to ask you this. What about collaboration? How do you collaborate?
I only collaborate with Carmela on cartoons. Everything else, in a way, I collaborate. I have what is called the amanuensis, and that's, I call it my reader. It's kind of like a secretary scribe. She takes my dictation, and then we put it on computer or typing or whatever, and that's the way. But they, my readers, as I call them, they don't influence what I write. They just take down what I say. And unless it's editing a lot later and they say you can't split an infinitive or something like that, that there ain't no such word, then most of it is what I've done. When Carmela listens to me dictating, she says I get kind of schizoid. You can hear me do the different voices of my characters. I'll sit down. When I'm writing a script, it's 16 hours a day. It's sometimes it's my dreams. I dream about the script. The characters come out. It's kind of weird, you know. You're talking to a person who is arguing with another person. You sit yourself, well, how you doing? Well, I don't know. What do you think? Hey, look, stupid. What do you mean? I don't know. You know, and people say, well, that man's talking to himself. You know. Yeah, well, shut up, because I might get money on this. So I ain't that crazy.
Well, do you find there's a prejudice against disabled writers in the film and television
Well, you know,
industry?
the Writers Guild, the industry always says, no, we're open, anybody can write. Okay, you prove to me that there are 20% disabled writers in the Guild, you're not going to find them. I've got a double prejudice going against me. I'm a Latino, Hispanic, Chicano writer. I'm over 40, I got 3 of them. I'm overweight, and I'm disabled. And what happens is the people that do the producing, the directing, the editing, they figure, well, if I was blind, I couldn't do it. Well, you're right. If you were blind, you couldn't do it, but I'm blind and I can do it. I'll tell you what, you give me the money to do the script. If I can't do it, take the money back. That's all I asked. Give me an opportunity to prove it. There's so many bad writers that you see over and over and over getting a chance to do their direct because they're part of the circle of the family in the Writers Guild. So hey, what's it going to hurt you to give me a chance to prove whether I can or cannot do it?
Well, that's a very interesting point, Tony, and I'm glad you're addressing it. And it's really open. I think a lot has to be overhauled and redone in this motion picture and film business for disabled people and older people as well. Let me ask you, what would your dream script be if I said, hey, I got $40 million for you?
Hey,
50 million.
50, you
This-
just
yeah,
cut
50.
me 10 million.
Okay,
Stan. Give
50
me that.
million. 50
You know the
million.
first 10 I'm taking for my retirement.
Right.
So with 40 million bucks, I could
Yeah.
probably do maybe 3, 4 movie scripts, or I could do a big elaborate Cats type of production on a live stage. I've always wanted to do a big Mexican Revolution movie with the thousands of people, or the antithesis to the John Wayne Alamo. What happened on the Santa Ana side? That's what I'd like to do. You know, remember John Wayne was killed in there, or who did he play in that? Did he play Travis or Houston?
He played one of those guys.
If he played Travis, I don't.
Also, he came up with the money to produce the
That's
movie.
right.
So,
Well, I've got the 40
yeah.
million, so you know, come on, Johnny, let me do it. I just would like to have a big, you know, almost the scope of a Gone with the Wind, where you just have thousands of people. One of the greatest movies I got to see, Cleopatra. There was that one scene where Richard Burton goes out and attacks the army, but they don't do anything. And there's thousands of extras standing there doing nothing. I want to see swords clashing and guns firing. Well, of course, you won't have in the same era. But I like to see a Mexican Revolution movie, some big spectacular thing, you know, where you just really, I don't think they've ever really used real life things other than science fiction where you can use special effects. I'd like to see some special effects in a big war movie, like the
Yeah.
Revolution.
Well, how would you pitch this idea? Say I was, which I am, J.J. Moneybags. How would you pitch me this idea? I'm a big shot at Warner Brothers or MGM or 20th, and you're coming in. How do you come in? How do you approach me? You, Antonio Ortiz,
Okay.
and the wonderful, marvelous pooch that you have,
That's old Rude there.
Rudy.
Rudy, yeah.
How do you come in to see me? How does that work?
Okay, imagine this.
Yeah.
You see a big panorama. There's a desert scene. You see a cactus. You pull back. Just the emptiness of the world is standing there. Just this beautiful colors, kind of a sunset, and all of a sudden, you notice there's a figure tied up, and the camera comes in close, and it's Sharon Stone.
You got my money. You got the 40 million, 50 million, kid. We're ready to go in business. You don't have to say anything anymore. I got to ask you, do you feel that there needs to be more of an open door for disabled writers? In other words,
It has to be an open door for everybody. The click is such. I mean, they're like here. We have cable TV, we have primetime TV, we have satellite TV, we have international TV, and there is enough room, whether you're a minority, whether you're disabled, whether you're female, whether you're one-legged, whether you're short, whether you're from Mars, whatever it is. It should be an open door for everybody, where the best writer gets an opportunity to at least do one script. And let's see whether that script works or not. And instead of having the sitcom shows that are all the same, the cartoon shows that are all the same, the movies that once in a while are different, but basically they're all the same. It's over and over the same stuff being done. Give everybody, and if you give everybody an opportunity to be creative, then the creative ones, if that's your criteria, you know, they cancel a show now if it's got 10 million people watching it. Shakespeare probably didn't have 10 million people watch his stuff when he was alive. Well, there probably wasn't 10 million people around. And what would have happened if Willie puts his show on TV and he gets 100,000 people watch it? Cancel Willie. He can't write Rest of Worth because we don't have commercials and no one's going to buy it. Give everybody an opportunity to be creative, and you won't have to worry about open doors, because if they look for creative people, the disabled, the old, the young, everybody will get that opportunity, instead of having these cliques where the same 100 writers do all the writing of bad and good shows.
Yeah, but the studio is going to say, hey, well, I mean, if we have a click, our click writes, we know what they're going to write. We know the time it's going to take. We know that they know the show that we are doing. Why should we ask you or any other disabled people to come onto our turf and do your show for us, because we know the whole score? You're going to cost us more money. How would you resolve that?
Well, the trouble is that nobody wants to give up power. If a blind writer can prove he can write a sitcom, what does the person who can see and sits down at a computer and does it on their own feel like? They're trying to make this information sacerdotal, like there's a secret thing where you go back, the wizard's not home. Only people with brains and this clique know how to write these TV shows. Baloney. That's what they're trying to protect, that the fact that if you're a good creative writer, whatever your circumstances are, you can do it. Okay, this time thing, it's all artificial. There's no reason why you have to write a show in 10 days. If they think ahead of time, if they schedule a show like cartoons, and one of the advantages of cartoons is you write it a year ahead of time. You have everything done because once you start filming the cartoon, you can't change it. They can do the same thing with movies. There's no law, there's no Newtonian law, there's no Einstein law that says you have to do a half-hour sitcom in 7 days. You could do it in 2 weeks. You could do it in 3 weeks. But no, this is how the other people, the producers, they keep the power because they know, okay, I know your show. Well, tell me about your, well, I'll know it when you tell me. I'll know this. Well, I can't tell you. It's a secret. But I'll know it when, hey, I'm not a mind reader. Your mind's too small to read. Even if I can read Braille, I can't read that small a mind.
Right on.
Now you see why I'm not in the. I don't make money writing.
I love it, Tony. Come on, give us some more, man. I love this passion that you have there, my friend, my dear friend. I'm so happy you're here.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Now, how much do I get paid?
Well, check is in the mail. Check is in the mail.
You'll be happy to know I get as much as the crew on the floor here. The cameraman, the director, the stage people. I get as much money as they do, and they get good money.
Well, hey, that's.
They just dropped the cameras and left.
You know, with your passion, I know you also have this passion for poetry. Can you kind of give us a little poem to our audience out there, or to me and Rudy too, and our vast audience on stage over here, you know, back there. Don't applaud too much, folks, back there. Go ahead, Tony.
This is one, when I went blind, I had my retina detached, and it floats around in my head, and I see these dots and stuff, and I try to explain it, and this is the way I explain it. It's called prism prison. Tiny pinpoints dance like fireflies in the night, floating delicacies trying to weave and wave and destroy themselves. They change from white and sparkle into blue, and now the clouds a brilliant violet. The lavender streaks toss amongst the golden springs. The blackness comes, but yellow faded out. Many times, in many ways, the colors play their games. But I can't tint my mind. I can't streak my thoughts. I can only flow into the prism that is now.
Wow, that's a wonderful poem, Tony. If you had another one, I'd let you tell us another one. But I don't want you to ruin my show because you'll steal it. You understand what I mean? That's what I'm afraid of. You know, that
it's
you're
okay.
Steal my show,
I'm available. So. I work for the city to survive, but I get one Monday off every other week, so I'm available.
Oh, you have another job? You mean you have a day job?
I have a job that provides my food, and you can see I eat well. I work for the city of Los Angeles. I'm in charge of the rent stabilization hotline, and that's what I do for a living. And my hobby, my opium, the thing that I have to do is I have to write. My reader volunteer, she comes over once a week. That's Gail, now Daggett Steyer. She's been with me now for 20 years. She started when she was 2 years old. I taught her how to read and write. And she's an incredible young lady. And there's a lot of people that help me out. I have another friend who's putting all my stuff on computer, Beverly Rubin. And of course, my editor and the one that makes sure I stay sane is Carmela Joy Ortiz, my wife of 23 years.
Hey, that's a big project in itself, being able to stay married for all those years. Let me ask you, when you do a concept of an idea, I mean, how do you see it in your head? I mean, you visualize. I mean, you're a very visual kind of person. But does the idea have to germinate? Does it have to kind of bloom, or can you just rattle it out just like that? Or do you need a bit of time for an idea to come together?
It all depends. If I'm doing it for a cartoon or pitching it, I can come up with a ton of ideas in no time. If it's something that I want to do, A lot of my writing, I'm writing because I want to tell people a story or some part of my life, either hidden or something like that. My blindness, a lot of time I use the analogy of the Vietnam War, because that's the era I would have been in. Ironically, when I went to, when I got my draft number, when they pulled the draft, here I was already blind, and I got number 360, so I wouldn't have gone anyway. However, the only optimist in the world when I did go blind was the U.S. Army, because when I registered for the draft, they never gave, I have yet to this day been made a 4F. I was made what's called a 2Y, which means temporarily disabled, could be cannon fodder at any time. But if it's my idea, what happens is I'll get a scene or a line. I have another poem that I do a lot of times, and I had this line that I had for 6 months. In childhood, I heard the Sunday slurp, and I just kept having that line over and over until I got the whole thing. Sometimes I'll have a scene in a movie. There's another movie I have where it's an opening scene where it's the real typical Mexican sitting on an adobe wall. He's got his head down. He's got a big sombrero. He's got a sarape, and he's just sitting there. And all of a sudden, this sheriff, this redneck sheriff, comes up and kicks him. He says, "How many times have I told you Mexicans not to be in my town?" And the guy smiles, kind of an Anthony Quinn figure, smiles, and he says, "Too many." And behind the sarape, he pulls out a sawed-off shotgun and blows the sheriff away. And that scene, I wrote part of the movie from that, and that was in my head for a long time. So that's what I do. I get those ideas and just go over. What I do is I get an idea, and that's my picking the grapes. I put it into an oak barrel, and then I'll see what I get. And maybe in a year, maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe 20, I'll get a nice wine. A lot of times I'll get a lot of vinegar. And if I have to sell it real quick, I'll get grape juice.
That's a wonderful analogy.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. You said something one day we were talking about Heaven Knows Mr. Allison.
I love that movie.
Why'd you love that movie?
I saw it several times visually, and the colors in that are beautiful, and it's 2 people, a simple story, and I just love it. Deborah Carr and Robert Mitchum, just the colors in that are just incredible to me.
Do you have any other favorite movies?
I like the first 45 minutes of Full Metal Jacket. I've seen that about 10, 20 times. I don't like the Vietnam part of it, but I like the first training part. I like the DI with Jack Webb when that was. Gone with the Wind is a nice movie, nice little movie.
Let me ask you this. What is one of your best experiences as a writer professionally in this business?
I think the Barbara Schultz, KCT, she let me do whatever I wanted. If anything, I kind of regret that she wasn't a little more stern and gave me a little more direction, because I didn't know anything about writing at that time. Oh well, you learn every day. And it was, the script is now mine again. After 1 year, it became mine. The only regrets I have is it wasn't produced, but you know, for not having something produced, it was a great experience. She was helpful and nice, and it's a great experience.
I remember talking to you when you told me about the time you just showed up at a studio door and went in there, and can you tell us the rest?
Well, I've done that before. You know, go into a studio. They don't
like
know.
A major studio?
Well, I've been on almost every major studio known to man. I've been on Paramount. I've been on 20th Century. I've been at Universal. You know, you just kind of walk in and you say hi.
You walk in with Rudy?
Well, it wasn't Rudy then. It was Rudy's my 4th dog. You walk in, or you say hi. I'm with the Writers Guild, and I learned by mistake that I'm in the Writers Guild. I'm not with the Writers Guild, but that sometimes got me in. And then once you're in, the studio believes you belong.
Right.
George Lucas did this. I mean, he went in and got us. My problem is I never did the kill. I wounded the bull, but I never stuck the sword in properly. That was I knew how to start, but I don't know how to finish.
So you would show up at a studio, and you actually bluffed your way in, kind of.
Yeah, sure. Who's going to stop a blind man with a dog? They'll do it now, of course. Plus, I'm intimidating. I say, yo, my homeboys are right behind me.
Tony, what was your worst experience as a writer? Let me ask you that.
Being on the Stand Director show, that was really
Oh,
hard.
God, oh, dear, I can't win for losing, for crying out loud. Okay.
I try to keep everything positive.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's,
Well, the
that's-
worst thing was the same play, as telescript Nana. We were in rehearsal for months, and the week before we did the dress rehearsals, they canceled it because of politics, and I never knew why. That was very devastating because I had a lot of good actors that did a lot of good work and worked hard, and I just wanted that one performance, and I never got it. That was very devastating.
What is your plans for the future? What are your plans for the future as a writer? Let me ask you that.
Well, first of all, I'm going to have lunch right after this.
Oh, okay.
That's very important to me. Secondly, I'll write. Usually I write on Wednesday nights, but since my reader comes all the way from Buena Park, we've done 3 weeks instead of 4. And so I'll keep writing whatever comes in. I would like a bigger block of time so that I could sit and do a major project. Right now I'm mostly doing short stories and poetry because in a 2-hour period that's all I have the time for. And sometimes I can carry the theme over for a week or two, but to do a major script with 2 hours a week, you just lose it. You know, remember I said at the beginning that I have to get that schizoid 18, 16 hours a day where I am those characters, and you can't do that and be a bureaucrat at the same time.
You know, we're wrapping up the show pretty soon. Not yet. I want to know what advice you would have to give to disabled writers.
First of all, there's 2 kinds of writers. There's the writers who talk about writing, and there's the writers who write. You have to keep on writing. You have to determine whether writing is important to you. Is it something that I need in my life, and if I don't write, do I feel like a next morning hangover? If you don't, then forget it. It's not worth it. You have to have a passion for it. You have to do it. If somebody says, look, you'll never get a penny, but here's pencil and paper, you'll write. Then that's what you do. If that's the feeling that you have, then keep on writing. Don't worry about whether you want to sell it or not. Tell your stories. Get it done. Learn how to write. Learn vocabulary. Buy dictionaries. Read other authors. And then just keep on writing.
Tony, you know, our time has just kind of like disappeared. What am I going to say? Maybe we'll do this some other time in another place. I don't know. All I know is it's been a great joy to have you on my show, and I'm going to touch your hand here, shake your hand.
Hey, it's been a lot of fun here.
You're my buddy.
Yeah.
I want to thank my TV audience out there in TV land for watching Mr. Antonio Ortiz.